Welcome to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast, the show that offers you tips and strategies to help speakers build the business of their dreams. Now here's your host, 30-year industry veteran and business coach, Jane Atkinson.
Well, welcome everyone to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast. Today, we're talking about making that frightening leap from full-time employee to full-time speaker. Our special guest is a past client and friend, Trent Theroux. Welcome, Trent.
Hello, Jane. Happy spring to you. Have you seen any shoots and sprouts up in the Great White North yet?
Actually, we have. We've got daffodils, tulips. I don't think I've seen any of our Ontario state, our provincial trilliums yet. But yes, thank you for asking. The snow is still actually, though, still in the process of melting. You and I haven't seen each other in a long time. So much has changed. Tell everybody kind of, and we're going to dive into leaving a big CFO job, etc. But tell everybody like your current speaking business and how you got started.
Oh, sure. First off, thank you for having me. And it has been quite a long time. In fact, if I can favor you, the last time we saw each other in person was 1 week before the COVID shutdown. You had
crazy?
one of your events in Phoenix, and you were thanking us for actually getting on the airplane because the scare had started.
Yeah, the scare had started, and I got home from that event, tried to go to another event, landed in Dallas, and then they canceled it once I was on the ground in Dallas. So I have not, and nor am I planning to do any. I don't know if COVID kind of rattled me, but we just made it in under the wire. And it really could have been quite devastating to not have had that event play. So you were there, and there's a story, but I'm going to get into that a little bit later. Thank you for being there. Tell everybody a little bit about your background and how you became a speaker, and
I will.
Your speaking business today.
How I became a speaker, I went to a function for IT people, and it was a big stage, about 700 people or so in the audience. And I sat there watching who they said the keynote speaker was. And I watched it, and he's telling some of the same stories I would have told to my business strategy class. I teach graduate school business strategy and finance. And I said, This is funny. I said, this person tells some of the similar stories that I do, except they don't tell them as well as I do in classes. And so starting after that event, within a couple of weeks, I wrote to the owner of the company that put it on. And I said, at the beginning of each month, I want to be on that stage next year to talk. And at the first of each month, for the next 12 months, I'm going to give you a reason why.
I love that.
And so on the first of the next month, I had my list. And after 5 months, he goes, okay, how about we bring you into our team and show us what you can do?
I love that. That is called persistence. And I love it so very, very much. Now, at the time when you stepped away from your day job, let's say, talk a little bit about what your job was. It was a pretty heady job.
It is. I was the chief financial officer and interim president of a $250 million energy services company. We had about 700 employees. And I just retired from there in end of June last year.
Wait. Let's just, I'm making sure. $250 million.
$1 billion. Yeah.
$250 million.
$250 million.
So that is something to be in charge of. Chief financial officer is a pretty big responsibility. And so you had been speaking. When did you do the 5-month emails to the guy that
was about 6+ years ago.
So
And
that
so
kind of
from
got you
there,
started. Yeah.
it did. That's what got me started. I had been teaching graduate school for 15 years.
Hmm.
I did it as an outlet because sitting as a CFO, sometimes I felt too much like the man, and I had to have a stern face on. Teaching gave me an outlet.
Oh,
I was
nice.
able to take my financial acumen to graduate students, and it was exhilarating for me to do.
I love
Have
that.
you would call it a side hustle. It was the side hustle that paid for my children's college.
I love that. And so, okay, you have your side hustle and you also have your speaking. And at what point, being a financial person, do you say, okay, I'm ready to say goodbye to the big salary and all the beautiful benefits? What did you think? What criteria did you have to meet for yourself you before you say goodbye?
There are two primary ones, Jane. So the first one is I could have easily stayed in the job for another 10 years.
You could have.
And then 10 good years would have gone away. And my wife and I, Penny Tremblay, came to the realization there's only so much quality time remaining. And so while we have this QTR, let's go do the things we want to do.
Oh, I love that.
Now, at the same time, we needed to make sure that I had a financial backstop to do that. I
Yes.
wasn't walking out into the cold. If I was in my mid-20s, it wouldn't matter. But as the big 60 starts to come around the corner, for me, that
Youngster.
yeah, you start to get a little nervous to make sure, okay, will I be able to pay for the nursing home and those type of things.
That's really I'm so entrenched in it right now with my mom that's a serious question. Now, I just want to put in a little, I don't know, something that says, where did you and your wife meet, by the way?
Oh my goodness. Let me see. My Canadian wife, and I am from the great state of Rhode Island, met at a Jane Atkinson event in Cape Coral, Florida, and it was love at, well, first sight for me. It was second sight for her.
Oh, I love that so very, very much. And I love that she was a big part of this decision for you to kind of leave and become a full-time professional speaker. Okay, before we move on from that, was there some fear involved in this decision? And how far are you with it behind you? And how are you feeling today about it?
Uh, what a really interesting question. The amount of fear is high because the skill set that I have is in finance, it's in analysis,
Hmm,
and it's in the ability to craft and tell stories.
okay.
The biggest weaknesses that I have are in sales marketing,
Oh, whoops.
which for your audience and your listeners know that this much of the business is about telling stories, and about this much, the ocean behind me, is in sales and marketing.
Yes.
And that's the item that still frightens me the most. It
Okay.
still causes me the most angst and is the one that I have to keep working the hardest to overcome.
Well, the fact that you have this persistent mindset and that you're all in is something uh, to behold. And also, I would coach you towards crafting your stories in selling so that becomes not like a game for you, but I'm going to see if I don't get a chance on this Zoom call with this prospective client to share these 2 or 3 stories. I actually think you can turn it into a storytelling thing and maybe take the
Sure.
onus off of your shoulders, because it's really not selling, quote unquote. It's actually you're trying to figure out whether or not there's a match. And if you show up with curiosity, which I know you do, you're golden. So you're probably having pretty good results already, are you
I
not?
do. I do. The biggest change from where I was to where I am,
Yeah.
and so I started with my 1,000+ LinkedIn connections, and I have another 1,000 business connections and such,
Okay.
is going from being the position, decision maker of power,
Right.
to that coin is now flipped, and I'm the other person. I'm a person that's interrupting their day.
Yes,
Um,
yes,
and
but you
so
get it. You get it to such a degree. You hired speakers for your
yes,
events. You've actually hired several speakers from my
I
which
hired three of yours, sure.
oh,
Yeah.
that's amazing. I didn't know it was three. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
I hired Orlando, Sindra, and I should say the last name, Orlando Bowen, Sindra Campoff, and Frank Soma.
Oh, I love that. And thank you for putting in a plug for them all. I love that you hired them for your company. And I think that the fact that you feel their shoes. Okay, so tell our listeners, when you're a busy decision maker, how do you want to be approached?
So I knew that I had an event. We'll start there.
Okay.
And I had the good fortune for me to know, particularly with speakers, to know that I had a stable to choose from
Mhm.
essentially from your stable. And based on your recommendations and Chris West's, another associate of yours, his organization, I was able to draw from that. That made
Yes.
it much easier for me. Maybe I
Yes.
can take the question and put it in a non-speaker role.
Okay.
I would get contacted by insurance agents regularly.
Okay.
And insurance agents will call up and say, we can save you 20%. All you have to do is give us an opportunity to audit. And I would listen for about 30 seconds and I would say, I'm not prepared to fire my current agent. No, you don't have to fire your agent. I just want to talk to you. He says, no, well, the end result would be if you come
Yeah.
here and do that, you want me to fire somebody I'm not prepared to.
Yeah.
And that's the first hurdle that we as speakers need to get over,
I
because
100%.
whether they have a speaker bureau that they use or they have some other network that they use, you are going to ask them to fire somebody. That's
Hmm.
the ultimate, because in many ways it would be for this year's event, a zero-sum game. But if you play a longer game with that, then that's how you have to consider it. That you're not looking to approach them, accost them about this year's event solely. It could be 3 years out, and it
Yeah.
does take that persistence to be a part of them.
We have a lesson in our school on telephone selling with Anthony Steers, who's from the UK, who I think you
Yeah.
met in Phoenix.
I met Anthony, yeah, the telephone assassin.
The telephone assassin, and he talks about it from the perspective of you're not you're going to go to the front door of a house with your pizza flyer and you're going to drop it off. So you're putting it in the mailbox or you're dropping off this pizza flyer. You're not expecting for somebody to order the pizza while you're standing at the door.
Right.
You're actually just putting in some information so that when they need a pizza, your flyer will be available and they'll think of you and you want to be top of mind. Well, the same thing with a speaker. If you come at your calls with curiosity, with the idea of this topic might be a fit for you at some point in time, then I think it really takes the pressure off us being great salespeople.
Yes.
You're just dropping off
Yes.
a pizza flyer.
That's
So
all we do. I watched Anthony give that presentation, and it's a clever metaphor, and it really hit home to the crowd. I was sitting in the audience watching.
yes, yes.
It's right. It's
Sticky.
right.
And so I have told that story. I just told it on my mastermind call a few minutes ago, actually. I have told that story over and over and over again because it was so sticky. And I
Mm.
remembered it and I remembered the analogy. So that's what we want to be able to do with our stories. Now, that is actually a nice way for us to segue into a bit of an offshoot here on story and storytelling, because you did something really cool last year at the National Speakers Association. You went into a contest. Tell everybody what the contest was about and what the results were.
Sure. The contest is called The Last Speaker Standing, and it's a story contest for members of NSA run by their chapters. And so each
Okay.
chapter has a competition.
Okay.
You are allowed 5 minutes, not 501,
Yeah.
5 minutes and no props.
5 minutes, no
No
props is
props.
the thing. So you did it at what chapter? What chapter do you belong
I
to?
belong to NSA New England.
Okay.
And so I did this, did my 5 minute speech or a 5 minute speech, and I won my local chapter, which was great.
Okay.
They gave me a nice little award.
Nice.
That put me in running to go to the regional. And to go to
Uh,
the regionals, NSA has a coach, a CSP or some muck. I had Jim Cathcart. I don't know if you know Jim.
I sure do. Of course,
Okay.
I've known him 30 years, but
Okay.
I don't know that you could get anybody, oh, just him.
Just
Like,
Jim Cathcart.
that's amazing. That's
Right.
so
And he became my coach. And what I did then was I had to prepare a video of my 5 minute story so I could polish it up a little bit more. You're not allowed to change the story. And what I found in this is I did over almost 30 takes of the story to get my 5 minute piece right because it required editing to figure out which word matters here with such a narrow band of time. What gesture matters? How are you going to make it online? How are you going to show somebody? One of the gestures I did was this grand wave, and I had 5 or 6 takes to figure out how to get the wave properly. Ultimately, I won the regional. It led me to the influence event in Denver last year, and I went to the main stage for NSA. I stood on the main stage and presented in front of 1,000 of the best public speakers in the world.
So it was 1,000 people. And if you've never been to an influence conference that NSA puts on before, the production, the staging, it is top notch. It's top tier. They
Amazing.
always do a really amazing job. And so how did that feel just walking out on that
I
stage?
felt we went there the day before to go backstage so we could get acclimated to where the green room would be,
Green room,
the
yes.
how to walk up on the stage, where all the marks are and the like, and I felt like somebody. That's the best way to describe it. I felt like something. I made it.
You
Um,
have arrived.
yeah, I did arrive. The next day, I was bouncing. I was like a 5-year-old, ready. Let's go, let's go. And I have to keep that in check because parts of the story I told are pretty somber, but I can feel my heart going through my chest. And I've spoke in front of 1,000 before. That wasn't the issue. It
Yeah.
really got to be who the 1,000 were.
Yes, these were
Best
your
speakers.
peers, probably one of the tougher audiences out there because they all think that they should be up there on stage and not
Amen.
you.
That's right. What's Trent doing up there? Why okay. But yes, and so they had a peer panel, so to speak, of notably Patricia Fripp was on there,
Oh my gosh.
Kelly Swanson was on it,
Oh my gosh.
Frank Kitchen was on it.
Ah,
And so they were there to provide feedback.
so
You
was
couldn't
there
ask, I
going to be
could
more than one round? Your goal was to get you had to do it, get feedback, and then did you have to do it again?
No, that was it. That was
Okay.
it. Standing,
Okay.
the judging is all done, or the voting is all done by the audience. So they go online, they go on their phones, and they vote, and they pick who they want to, who they think the best speaker or the best
And what
story
was the
was.
outcome, Trent?
I finished runner-up.
Awesome.
So I
Awesome.
am thrilled to be runner-up in the National Speaker Association Storytelling Competition. And
That
it
is
has certainly has opened doors. Two things. First off, all that great production value that you spoke about, Jane,
Video.
They gave me a whole video, a big stage,
Hmm.
which I've leveraged quite well, I think,
That's
through
your
an
demo.
improved.
I mean, that's all you
Yeah,
need for a demo. And a 5-minute story is really all you need, by the way, for a demo anyway.
right.
Yes, I've seen demos with gorgeous production value. My buddy Chris West definitely has the gift for those.
Sure.
But if you don't have a video, a 5-minute a 5-minute story is fantastic.
That's right. That's right.
Mhm. So tell everybody, because I have heard, I think, this particular story before. We've had Kelly Swanson in to do our live events, and I believe she was
She was,
probably at
I was
both
in
of
the
them.
hot seat with her.
Yes, I believe. So I've seen the story. Tell everybody what the story you shared at NSA was.
Sure. Briefly about it, I was paralyzed in an accident, and that changed my life because the feeling of paralysis, it's different than any disease in this one respect. In 1 second, your life changes.
Mm,
So everything you knew is over, and it takes more than you know to get started again. And that's the theme of this story. But where some of the humor and some of the inspiration comes from is lying in the hospital bed, not able to move, and creating what I call my coming attractions. Some people use the term bucket list, right? But a bucket list implies you're going to die. I
okay.
called it a coming attractions because I was going to live, just
Right.
like what you'd see at the movies. And so I started to make a list of coming attractions, which started with walking, which I thought was a really good place to start.
Yes.
And by the time I got to the 10th one, it was to go and swim the English Channel.
Okay. So how did you come up with go and swim the English Channel?
Well, let's start. The first couple were easy. I want to get up and walk. I want to climb a flight of stairs. I want to lift my children. I want to be with my wife. I wasn't quite sure how the equipment was going to work back, while I was lying in the hospital. I
Right.
wanted to climb a flight of stairs, and I go, well, I've done those things. Let's do things you haven't done. So I said, I want to run a marathon. I want to climb a skyscraper, do the Ironman. And the last one, as a swimmer, I said, I want to go do the English Channel. And I wrote it on my list. And I had the list with me, and I still do, for years as inspiration of the things we want to do in our lives. And I went and did it. I did the first 9 items on that list, mostly for me to prove that I'm still capable and human.
Right.
When I got to the 10th one, I realized the good grace that I had, and by God's will is what allowed me to walk because of the damage that this accident did. And so I decided to create a foundation that provided durable medical goods for people with spinal cord injuries.
Mm,
Because when I was in the recovering, I'd come home, we had cleared out the whole living room, and I needed a hospital bed because I couldn't climb stairs.
hmm.
And the hospital bed was $1,200 a month,
Oh my
not
God.
covered by insurance. And I said, well, I try to imagine machinists and teachers and people with not as rewarding, monetarily rewarding jobs. How do they afford it?
Hmm.
And so I did a series of marathon swims to provide these durable goods, like ramps and handles and toilets and the like. And I do my swims backstroke as a sign of solidarity for the spinal cord community.
Yeah.
And to date, we're near $500,000 raised through my swimming for this organization.
That is awesome. Um I'm in the throes. You've probably heard me talking about my mom. She's 95. She has Alzheimer's. We have one of these tippy wheelchairs for her, and we are very lucky to be able to afford a tippy wheelchair because they're, a few $1,000s
Yeah.
for our people out there who maybe don't have the means to be able to, and our government subsidizes them. We're very lucky that way. But, I recognize how fortunate we are. And congratulations for over $500,000 going towards these pieces of equipment. Tell everybody what kind of spinal cord injury did you have, and how was it that you were able to walk again?
I was run over by a boat,
Oh,
and the propellers severed all the major muscles on the left side of my back and carved out 5 pieces of my spine. But grace of God, it didn't cut into the spinal cord. What happened to me was the trauma made the spinal cord seize up in like a protective mode. And it was only after a while that it started to release that I was able to start to gain sensation, feeling, mobility again. So I had the scare of being permanently paralyzed without being permanently paralyzed.
how frightening was it to get back? I'm assuming you were just swimming, minding your own business when this happened. How was it? Were you not terrified to get back in the water and do that again?
I was absolutely frightened. I
Mm.
was absolutely frightened to get in the water. I was kayaking at the time.
Oh,
It was more than it took
so
me
you
more than
weren't swimming, you
no,
were
I was
kayaking.
kayaking.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
Yeah. And it took me more than a decade to get back into a kayak. For swimming, what made it really hard for me was this challenge of trying to lift my children. One of the items of my coming attractions.
Mm-hmm.
And my daughter was on the swim team. I wanted to go swim with her some more. And it was challenging because she was scared of the scars that I have through my back, which became a joke because it looks like a zebra stripes. I look like I have zebra stripes across the back from my shoulder blade down to my rump. And but that was a hard thing. The physical scars that I had to, and look at the fear on my daughter's face was
Mm.
was harder than actually just putting my toes in the water.
Okay. So you decide you're going to swim across the English Channel, because who doesn't want to
Because
do that?
isn't that what everybody does after tea on a Saturday?
I don't want to do that, even a little. I'm actually up at the lake as we're recording this, and I look
Yeah,
out. Water's freezing right now, but yeah, swimming across the lake, which is a
yeah.
tiny lake, not even a thought. So, okay, you go and you do that and you survive it. Just tell us kind of the Cole's Notes version of that swim.
I will. I We get there. I took my family there and some friends that I brought, an EMT, two EMTs, because you need medical care just in case. And when we got there, the winds were at 20 plus knots. And I met the captain, and he said, it's going to be a couple of weeks before you can go out and swim. The conditions will be too dangerous. And I go, do you see? I got the whole entourage here. No, I don't got a couple of tickets, a couple of weeks. This is expensive. We had given ourselves a 5-day window because we want the conditions to be right. The tides are right enough. And he said, no. So finally, we're one day before we have to go. And I said, Simon, the captain, we need to go. He goes, mate, you don't want to do that. I go, we're going to go. And so out we went. Jane was swimming in a washing machine. I was swimming in a washing machine. It took only an hour for me to, we'll say, lose my breakfast
Okay.
while I was in the water and keep going. And what happened, I swam through it. At the 2 hour mark, I tried to feed some more, couldn't keep that down, get to the 3 hour mark. And one of the things that's different about the English Channel is the water is exceptionally cold. So I had to put on about 25 pounds of brown fat or fat, and which, by the way, adding 25 pounds of fat is hard. It's like 4 meals a day plus snacks and
For
wash it down.
you. For you, it's hard.
Okay.
Most women in middle age, yeah,
It's,
not so hard. But anyway,
so
I'll
um,
try to feel your pain.
thank you. We got to the 3.5 hour mark, and I was a little over a third of the way there, and I hadn't been able to put anything down. The boat captain said, "Listen, we've got a problem because if you can't keep something down, you're going to suffer hypothermia
And you're
and
talking about you need to take some food into the
nutrition."
body
Yeah.
to give you fuel to continue
Yes.
on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fuel, warmth, right.
Yeah.
And he said, if you can't, then we're going to have to stop the swim. And the English Channel, you are at the mercy of the captain. If he says swim's over, you have to get out. There's no
Swim drill.
choices.
Okay.
And so we talked a half an hour later because I tried one more time to eat and I couldn't. So
Hmm.
um,
How do you eat while you're swimming?
so I have when there's 5 minutes left, my assistants will say put a five up, and that way I know how much it is, and I'll swim, and I'll say I want goo, gummy, avocado, Gatorade, scope, and they will put that little bag together. They'll throw to me. I'll get on my
Oh,
back and eat and drink like an otter while I'm kicking.
that's right. You're on your back. Okay.
Yeah,
I was picturing breaststroke. I forgot back. Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
Any
Like an otter.
anyway, at just before 4 hours, I was looking at the back of the boat, and if you touch the boat, the swim is over.
Okay.
And knowing how hard I worked to get there, I spent a year of training, thousands of hours in the weight room and swimming and lifting and things like cold water acclimation, things that were whoa. And ultimately, I had to get out. And I get onto the back of the boat, and I had to finish the process of getting the stuff out of my body. And I'm covered in one of those foil potato wrappers. And I
Yes.
started crying. This emotion poured out of me because I failed. And I'm a type of person that I succeed, right? So
Mhm.
I failed. I'm just tearful about it. My son Max is next to me, and we're riding back, and we can see the beautiful white cliffs of Dover that we're heading towards. And he said, "Well, Dad, what was your goal?" I said, "Yeah, 3 words: get to France." And he goes, "No, no, it wasn't." He says, "Wasn't your goal to raise $50,000 for rise above paralysis?" I go,
Um,
"Yes." He says, "Well, how'd you do?" I said, "We raised almost double that." He goes,
oh,
"And you achieved your goal, Dad." And I'm
ah,
like, I didn't consider it. I was just the vehicle to raise money for people that needed help. And and I did succeed under those conditions. Yeah.
that's how you think of it to this day.
Yeah.
How long would the channel actually take to swim?
I was prepared for it to be 12 hours.
Oh my
Some
goodness.
people, I have a friend, it took her 18, but I moved through the water a little bit better than she does. Um, but that it's 22 miles point to point from England to France, but you can't swim point to point because the currents are so strong. So you swim in this sine wave and the water, it's the most heavily trafficked body of water. And what's very interesting, I didn't appreciate until I was getting ready, was that the swimmer's boat, so my pilot, Simon, we have GPS on us, and the ferries try to avoid us, except they kick up really cold water, Jane. Oh my goodness.
My goodness. I just can't believe you did that. Um, that it was on your list to begin with. That's
On the coming attractions. That's right. Yeah.
coming
And so,
attractions. I love coming attractions, and I think you're an amazing man for setting those out and most beautifully for raising all that money. And I I'm thrilled for you that you felt and good for your son for reframing things for you, right?
right. Absolutely right.
What a
Absolutely
smart
right.
young man he was. And how old was he at the time when you did this?
Oh, he would have been, he had just turned 19.
Ah,
So he
he
was
got
excited. Yeah, right. And by the way, the ocean got the better part of him too, because I didn't see him. He was on the other side of the boat a couple hours,
eating the fish, so to speak.
feeding the fish, so to speak. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I get that. Trent, you've done really, really well. And I'm super excited for you on this next chapter, both with Penny and on stages. And how can people connect with you? What's your favorite way? Is it LinkedIn that you love to be on for people?
I do. LinkedIn. I have a YouTube channel that'll have a podcast. You inspired me, called The Resilient Leader's Journey. And I interview C-suite people talking about leadership in the realm of character, confidence, and commitment.
And it's called The Resilient Leader's Journey.
Leader's Journey. Right.
Okay. And let's spell your last name for people. It's Theroux.
You have it right.
And it's pronounced Thoreau. Is that right?
I'll go with Thoreau. I would say Theroux. I have people calling me dumbass. I answer to a lot of names, Jane.
Okay. Well, Trent, thank you so much being with us here today. And for those of you listening in, if you've enjoyed what we were talking about today, maybe you're becoming a little braver about taking that leap out into the full-time speaking realm. But you know what? If staying there makes sense for you, then do that. We certainly don't push for anyone over here at the Wealthy Speaker School. Let me know if it's been helpful for you. Jane@speakerlauncher.com. I'd love to hear from you. And with that, we're going to say, see you soon, Wealthy Speakers. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast. If you need help building the speaking business of your dreams, head over to wealthyspeakerschool.com and take advantage of our 20-minute next step call. Thanks for listening to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast.